Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the NFL Exporter, aka Expert Reporter Ty Goodman with the Underworld Sports Show. Right now, we're taking a look at fantasy football 2013 for the NFL and how things have stacked up through 6 weeks. We're moving over to the wide receivers now, leading off the way. Dez Bryant, definitely deserving of the A grade that he received this year. He's leading off the receivers with 75 points. He's definitely put the touchdowns up. 100-yard games, he hasn't quite gotten there yet. So the upside is huge. I mean, he's leading the way. He's only had one 100-yard game. Continues to be a big-time threat for Tony Romo and the Cowboys passing game. Next in line, big-time surprise, Deshaun Jackson, 69 points. Deshaun definitely solidified himself as a #1 receiver starting off the season when he lost Jeremy Maclin. Last year, Jackson was very disappointing, put up a lot of mediocre games, but with Chip Kelly at the helm, now running the offense for the Eagles, the vertical game has been back, and Jackson's speed has been on display. So he's a guy that you got late, probably looking at sticking it in the flex, and if that is the case, even better. He's a solid play. Deshaun Jackson is doing an excellent job being a big play guy. A couple games already over 20 points this year. He looks on his way to have an explosive season. Next in line, Wes Welker, 68 points. Wasn't quite sure what Welker would do in Denver, but then again, I guess if you really thought about it, you did. One of the best slot receivers in the NFL, directly in Manning's eyesight. Manning, I'm quite sure, had plenty of days, headaches with facing Welker in New England. So a guy who stepped right in, continued to just do what he does, which is get very difficult to check in space, and with Manning at the helm, putting the ball right on the numbers. All he has to do is get open, which he does with no problem. Wes Welker, another excellent value pickup in the later rounds, third place as far as points are concerned for wide receivers. Next in line, Victor Cruz, 68 points. Cruz continues to be a big play guy. Started off the season with a game, 3 TDs, came back the next week with a game over 100 yards. It's definitely been a solid play. Cruz was going somewhere around the fourth to sixth round. It's been an excellent pickup. Victor Cruz is definitely a guy who gets his target and has solidified himself as Eli Manning's #1 top go-to guy. Next in line, Demaryius Thomas, 67 points. Thomas continues to be a big-time weapon for Peyton Manning in the Broncos passing game. He catches screens, can take it to the house, has big playability as far as rack running after the catch, as well as in the red zone with his size. I really like Demaryius Thomas, another guy who you could have got anywhere from the 4th to 6th rounds and be giving you excellent value right now. Next in line is Julio Jones at 65. Jones is doing an excellent job. He has 65 points so far this year. Unfortunately, Jones will be missing the remainder of the season with a foot injury. That's really been Julio's only problem. When he's on the field, this guy produces. He puts up the big numbers. He's a very explosive player, but unfortunately injuries have hampered him from having a full season to see what his full capability is, and this is another year. Fantasy owners have to be devastated, as Jones was leading the NFL in receptions prior to getting the injury last week in Week 5 in the Monday night loss to the Jets. Next in line is Torrey Smith, another guy giving you excellent value for where you're able to pick him up at, somewhere around round 6 to 7. Smith has 60 points. Has put up big numbers, especially in his breakout game against the Bills with 199 yards. Being the main target and the only guy really left that Joe Flacco is comfortable with in the passing game, you should continue to see Smith putting up big plays with his speed and getting a lot of targets from Joe Flacco. Next in line, big surprise, Alshon Jeffries, a guy who was on the waiver wire. He has 60 points, has really done an excellent job building chemistry with QB Jay Cutler. Brandon Marshall demands a lot of coverage in that offense, which leaves Jeffries in one-on-one situations. He's been able to take advantage of it. The rookie battled through injuries last year, but is healthy and is showing why he was a first-round pick. Next after that is Brandon Marshall. So you can see Jay Cutler's getting his work in. Marshall has 56 points. You definitely have to respect that. Marshall, again, gets double teamed, gets a lot of coverage thrown his way, but he still finds a way to get the ball in the end zone. I have no question that Brandon Marshall numbers are going to add up throughout the course of the year. Next in line, Jordy Nelson, another great value guy, picking up rounds 6 through 8. He's got 54 points, excuse me. He's established himself as Aaron Rodgers' #1 receivers. Yeah, I know we were trying to figure that out between Nelson, Cobb, and Jones, who would emerge as that guy, and it's been Jordy Nelson Johnson just continues to excel. Great route running, great hands, great body control. I really like Jordy Nelson. If you have him on your team, he's definitely a solid play on a week in and week out basis. Next in line, Calvin Johnson, 53 points. Megatron had an explosive game in Arizona. Besides that, it's been fairly quiet, but again, here's a guy who gets double teamed and triple teamed. He gets a lot of coverage thrown his way, so you have to respect it. Calvin Johnson's number will add up over the course of the year. I don't have any question about that at all. But there is a little bit of cause of concern thus far. He did miss a game due to injury, and then this past week against Cleveland, he only had 20 yards. He dropped a touchdown in the end zone. Yeah, he knew it. He came up frustrated, but again, the opportunity should be there for Calvin Johnson to thrive. Next in line is A.J. Green. Green bounced back yesterday against the Bills with over 100 yards in the TD, but the past 3 games disappointing after a stellar start, starting off the season with 35 points against the Bears. That really got defense's attention, and then they face some division foes who are very familiar with Green, but without questions, he's one of the top receivers in the NFL. If you have him on your team, he's a solid play. You should feel very comfortable with the potential points that A.J. Green can put up on a weekly basis. Next in line, surprisingly, Antonio Brown. Here's a guy in some leagues not even drafted. He's 52 points in. He's been Big Ben's main weapon. The Steelers are not doing a whole lot on offense, but when they are doing things in the passing game, it is Antonio Brown who is out there making noise. He did have a game with 191 yards and 2 TDs, which really stacked his numbers up. Next in line was Eric Decker. Decker has found himself with 50 points. He's the third receiver on Denver's team with over 50 points. As I suspected, he was the last man on the totem pole. It seemed like Manning had definitely made the connection with Demaryius Thomas as his go-to receiver, and then with Welker coming over in the slot. You've seen that Manning took advantage of that, so Decker is still a solid play, but he is last on the totem pole. If you have him, it's kind of a feast or famine situation. A touchdown really helps this situation on a week in and week out basis. Some other guys who are doing a decent job. Anquan Bolden has 49 points. If you caught him on the right week, especially week 1, he did an excellent job. He's been excelling. Randall Cobb, Reggie Wayne, a couple guys still doing good jobs. The touchdowns really will help their situations out, but value-wise, especially with Reggie Wayne, where you can get him, he was a solid pickup. Denarius Moore from the Raiders has 48 points. He's been very solid. He scored in the last 3 games. He's starting to pick up steam. He solidified himself as Terrell Pryor's #1 receiver, another receiver who you have with excellent value on a week in and week out basis as far as getting double digits. A couple guys whose numbers are down, who are disappointments. Larry Fitzgerald has 45 points. It's been shaky, He finally had a good game yesterday against the 49ers, but prior to that, 2 to 3 games, and it's been difficult for him to muster up any type of points. James Jones, only 42 points. Andre Johnson, Hakeem Nicks, Marcus Colston, all guys underachieving. If you had them on your squad, especially as a #1 primary receiver, your team should be struggling. And also Mike Wallace's numbers are down. He's dropping the ball in Miami. He seems to be buckling to the pressure. He has not established himself as a #1 receiver for Ryan Tannehill. And if you had any type of expectations from him this year, there was really only 1 week that he even played well. If he can get his hands together, there is still some upside. Again, it's early in the season, but so far you can see the disappointments as well as the players who have lived up to expectation. Once again, it's the NFL Exporter, Ty Goodman, the Underworld Sports Show. We'll be right back.